So I came across this post on LinkedIn by Shreya, and it is definitely heartbreaking to see posts like this. She has exhausted her OPT and now she has to leave US. Clearly, she tried all the avenues, and the outcome is frustrating, and I can totally understand that feeling, right? Because it's one thing to leave a country on your own terms, but to be forced out is something no one should have to go through, right? And in related news, there is so much happening in US right now, especially around Trump administration, the new executive orders, the new bills, etc., that is causing anxiety and pain for so many international students, including Indian students. So I thought, because of all the DMs that I keep getting from the concerned families, I thought I'll do a video to just take a stock of all the weird news that is coming out of US, or what I call Trump Tamasha, and how does it impact aspiring students like you. So it's just my rant. It's not exactly a strategy or tips video, but yes, just to catch up on the news and what does it mean for people like us. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope I could be more cheerful when welcoming you back in this video. But yeah, I understand that it's a very anxiety inducing time. So I did a Q&A on Instagram and I got flooded with news or worries around whatever is happening in the US. So this video is from my side to cover everything on that. If you find the information or my opinions useful, please do consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me. So I want to cover the major news that is coming out, and the biggest news of it all is obviously the OPT news, the proposal to end the OPT program. So a bill has been put in the US Congress, which seeks to end the OPT. What is OPT? OPT is the optional practical training program. What is it? In simplest word, you can think of it like the study work permit of the US, which allows students to legally work in the US until the time they can get a formal work visa like H-1B. Now, every country has their version of study work permit, and this is for US. And because we know H-1B has been so tough and tricky to get, OPT becomes extremely crucial for Indian students because it allows them to keep working and keep trying for H-1B lottery. Now, so if this gets removed, it's obviously a very horrid news, right? Because it means that the students cannot legally work in the US if they don't get H-1B. And the possibility of getting a H-1B by the time you graduate is extremely slim because of the whole structure of H-1B, given that there are only 85,000 H-1B seats everywhere, and there is lottery system. So it's extremely rare that you will get H-1B right away before you're graduating. And then if you don't have OPT, then you cannot legally stay back and work in the US, which is horrible. Why? Because most of the students who go to US are taking some form of education loan to pay for their education. It's a hefty education loan because dollar is very expensive. And usually they could pay it back only by working in US dollars, right? You can't pay back US fee by working in Indian rupee and getting a salary in Indian rupee, right? It just doesn't make sense. So the question is, if the OPT program is scrapped and you're not allowed to work in the US and you don't get H-1B, that means you have to return immediately after your education, then the ROI doesn't make sense anymore. Why will students go to US, right? So this bill is extremely worrisome. But now let's look at the technical aspects, and is it likely to get passed, or can Trump even do this, right? Because Trump has said a lot of things in past few months, but can he really do this? So we have to understand the history of OPT a little bit. So OPT program was initially introduced in 1947, so it's a fairly old program. And then in 2008, we got something known as STEM OPT extension. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So they gave extra 17 months extension to STEM students in 2008. And then when Obama came in 2016, he increased that extension to 24 months, which means that you get default 1 year of OPT, every student gets it. And then you could have 2 extra years for STEM education. If you have graduated from a STEM program, you could get 2 years of extra OPT. So in total, you could keep working in US for 3 years before needing a H-1B. This was a big relief. And By the way, I think this is a fairly generous study work permit that you see in other countries. And honestly, I mean, US has benefited a lot from OPT, STEM OPT, because a lot of students or a lot of big executives in US industry were once a student. They must have availed the OPT program themselves, right? So it's very ironical that US is trying to scrap this out now. Now let's understand how easy it is to remove OPT. So the OPT is not a law passed by Congress, but it's a regulation established by the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS. This means that its terms and existence are subject to regulatory powers of the executive branch of the US government. In short, if a president wants to make any changes or even remove OPT, he can do it via DHS. Okay, because OPT is governed by federal regulations rather than legislation. So these changes means that yes, Trump can remove this program. However, such actions would typically require following a formal rulemaking process, which includes public notice and the opportunity to comment. So other people have a say in this matter. They can intervene and prevent it from happening. So I still see the possibility of this happening is slim, but again, it's Trump, so we don't know. He can find a way, he can get his way to get things done. So I'm not ruling out that option. And in fact, the very news that they are thinking in this direction is a troubling news. So yes, it's not at all a good news, and yes, students should be worried about this development. Second news is around controversial visa revocation. So you must have heard of how 300 students got their F1 visa revoked, right? Now, I understand that a lot of those visas were revoked because of the political activities of these students, and I'm on board with it, right? If you're going there, but instead of studying, you are getting into political activism, and it's leading to some form of vandalism or violence on campus, that is unacceptable. And the country can obviously take actions against it. So I'm not here supporting any student who caused any sort of violence on campus, right, because of their views or something. So if the government is taking an action on that, I maybe understand that. What I don't understand is some other cases where visas were revoked for what I call something like very frivolous reasons. And one case we came across was that a girl was denied entry back into the US because she had taken a $50 payment for an Instagram collaboration. Now, of course, people would say that, like, that this is considered working off campus, and obviously that's not allowed on F1 visa. I get that. But the problem here is that student might not have even realized the fact that this is considered as working off campus. So it seems like those innocent cases, and there are some other cases also, for example, like, if you moved apartments but you did not update the service within 10 days, that is considered like, illegal, or it can put you out of status, or you were arrested for DUI. I am not at all supporting people who are engaging in this. But even if there was no conviction, they can quietly revoke your visa, right? Then if you took a mental health break, let's say, from classes, but did not get the DSO approval, or you did not notify service on time, that can again put you on out of status. So things like these, I think, are very blurry. Students may not even realize that I'm doing something illegal. So instead of getting a warning about it, what's happening now is your visa is revoked, you are not even informed, and sometimes you are only realizing it when you are re-entering the country. I think that's very bad etiquette and bad hygiene, right? They at least deserve a notice about it so that they can do something about it. So anyway, so things like these are also happening, which is, I think, just bad hygiene. I mean, students are the most innocent of the populations, right? They are paying fee, they are coming to your country to get education. You cannot target them for your political reasons. I mean, or if you want to, then don't give them admission, right? Don't take their fee and then make the life so horrible for them. So this is what I absolutely I hate this part, how they're targeting students. And third update would be heightened visa scrutiny. And this is a follow-up of the last part itself. When Trump administration is so keen on finding faults with the student and finding just excuses to revoke their visa, so you can only imagine that how difficult they are going to make to issue new visa in the first place, right? So now, of course, the fall 2025 visa season is going to come, and everybody who has gotten an admit who wants to head to US for fall 2025, you are going to apply for student visa. It's not going to be easy, right? And so apart from the regular reasons, हर साल I post videos, we know the normal reason, like you could not show proper financial documents, you could not properly answer why this university, etc. And that can lead to 221G denial. But now you will have to be wary of many other things in your background, because remember, they are watching you, and that's the video I did last Sunday. So do go through it. If you're heading for a visa interview this season, then do watch that video. But in short, I'm expecting a very turbulent visa season ahead, guys. So be prepared. And some of the reasons for which you can get rejected would be if you have any sort of activist history or political organizing, and this could be online or offline. If you have engaged in that, red flag. Any kind of social media activity where you have supported controversial movements, any sort of participating in protests, especially on international issues, following or engaging with flagged pages or influencers, previous travel or visa violations, even in other countries, poor academic fit for the program you're applying to, incomplete or conflicting information in DS 160 versus interview. So you wrote something else in the form and you're saying something else in your interview. Going to a lower ranked university when you have a better admit. So these are all reasons for which your visa can easily get rejected. So be very, very careful. Do not take your student visa interviews for granted this year. Another news that worried some of the students was how visa slots are getting cancelled in bulk. So as per the reports, US Embassy in India cancelled approximately 2,000 visa appointments following the discovery of widespread fraudulent activities. And they basically identified bad actors. What are bad actors? These are some of the agents which use bots, etc., to secure visa slots and which violates the official scheduling policies. So obviously, so they are basically trying to target bots and people who are bulk booking the slots and then selling those slots to people. So on one hand, I think this is good, right? Because it helps the genuine students who are trying to manually book the slots. You have better probability of getting the slot if the system removes these bots. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is also another deliberate bureaucratic tactic to make the visa approvals slower and introduce delays. So just cause frustrations to people applying for visa because they don't want to grant visas very easily. So by introducing these delays, etc., maybe they are able to make some people get out of the system itself. If you are not able to book the visa on time, if you can't reach US on time for your session, then you will have to delay your whole education. So yes, I understand why these appointment cancellation also causes anxiety, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is something more than what they are saying officially. So besides blocking the bots, maybe they're just trying to introduce frustration using bureaucracy. So whatever is the case, of course, this is not, again, this causes some uncertainty, but it is what it is, I think. Ignore it. And lastly, of course, everybody knows about the US-China trade war, and I don't need to explain why that is, that harms everyone. So if you have interest in economics or if you follow economists, then you know the very fundamental thing is that tariffs help no one and they only make everyone suffer in the long term. So whatever Trump's reasons might be, and people are speculating on that he's doing it for these reasons, but in the end, it's not going to be great for the economy. And what that means is it's not going to be great for job creation and definitely not for students for that reason. Further, it makes everything more expensive for international students. So that's again not a welcome thing we are seeing. So these are some of the latest news that's happening on the US front that affects students like you, right? Now, of course, I'm sure you're worrying about what does it mean for you and your future. So I just want to tell you two stories. One is, of course, going back to Shreya's story, which we already saw. and you can feel her pain in that post, right? You can feel the pain of an immigrant who reaches US after so much struggle, who it involves a lot of sacrifices as well. You go there with the hope of building a future, and when that future is snatched away from you, it's definitely going to feel very unfair. Now, as she rightly points out, she has pointed out many flaws also in the system regarding healthcare and all those things, right? So the frustration, the pain is very inevitable in that post. And if you want to avoid being in that kind of situation with 100% certainty, then the only way is to avoid US altogether. Don't put yourself at the mercy of that system so that it cannot do any of those things to you. So that is one route which is available to you, and that is completely fine as well. The other story is, I recently talked to somebody who has studied in US. They now help deal with US immigration and some advice on that front as well. We had a good chat last week, and I really enjoyed talking to that person. And what he told me that he faced a similar kind of uncertain future back when he was after he had exhausted his own 3 years of OPT, after he did his bachelor's in US. So he was in a similar situation, but he was of the mindset that I didn't want to leave myself at the mercy or not have a regret that I did not try out everything. So he tried many other things out and eventually was able to get a H-1B visa in the US, and he now lives there. That is how he did that is an interesting story for another time. But the bottom line was that, what stayed with me after that call was that, he was determined to try everything out, and so that he doesn't have a regret later on. That's the second case. Those are some other kind of people, right? Who believe that, okay, I want to take certain calculated risks. I will hope for the best and I'll be prepared for the worst. So that is another mindset. Of course, there is never a guarantee that things will work out. So you will have to be always prepared of what if it doesn't work out. Then can I still make my life work out in some other direction? And will this stay, or will this education still help me? So those are some of the questions you have to ask yourself, because honestly, there is no black and white answer. I cannot tell you what to do. Nobody else can tell you what to do. When people ask me, is it worth going to US in this situation? I would say it will not be worth for many people. It might still be worth for some people. Depends on your circumstances, depends on your own past and your future aspirations. So do think about what kind of person you are, what kind of bet you want to take about your future, and then proceed with it. Think deeply. Do not take any decision out of any sort of pressure from anybody. The decision has to come from within you, because otherwise you would always resent if you take the decision out of any sort of pressure or because of somebody else's influence. So the decision has to come from within you, and either ways I think it would be the right decision. Whether you go or whether you don't go would be the right decision for you. So don't worry about that. Let nobody be the judge of what you have to do, right? It's your life. You have to decide, and you have to take the ownership of whatever happens later on. So that is all I have to say. That is the conclusion, open-ended conclusion I will leave you guys with. So do what feels right to you in this moment, and may the force be with you, right? So that's all. I will see you guys next week with another video. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.